You're at the checkout. You're about to pay, and then you see it.
Yeah, that little button. The one that offers to split up your payment. It seems so simple, right? So harmless. But what's really going on behind that click?
So let's say you've got a $120 item in your cart. Nothing crazy, just a standard kind of purchase.
But then, with just one click, that price tag, it transforms. All of a sudden, you only owe $30 today. And instantly, it just feels easier, way more affordable.
And here's the kicker, no interest. It feels like you found a loophole, right? A totally free, simple way to stay on budget.
So what is this thing? Well, welcome to the world of buy now, pay later. A whole industry built on the power of that one easy click.
Okay, so at its core, buy now, pay later, or BNPL for short, is basically a type of short-term financing. It lets you get your stuff today, but you pay for it in these smaller, equal chunks over a few weeks or months. It's pretty much an instant loan you get right at the checkout counter.
But you've got to wonder, if they're not charging you interest, how do these companies actually make any money? Well, the vast majority of their income, we're talking around 90%, it comes from fees. But they're not charging you the fees, they're charging the stores.
So why on earth would a store agree to pay that fee? Simple. The data shows that when shoppers see that BNPL option, they can end up spending, get this, up to 30% more. That little button makes bigger purchases feel smaller, and for the store, that extra spending is totally worth the commission.
Okay, so now let's zoom out and see how this all builds into something, well, something much, much bigger. You really have to see the scale of this industry, and more importantly, how people are starting to use it.
And the growth has just been explosive. I mean, look at this. In just 2 years, the global BNPL market more than tripled. It jumped from $33 billion in 2019 all the way up to $120 billion in 2021. This isn't some little niche product anymore. It's a massive part of our economy.
And what we're buying with it, that's shifted dramatically too. You know, it used to be for big-ticket stuff like a new TV or designer clothes, but now, recent data shows that more and more Americans are using these short-term loans just to buy their groceries, for everyday necessities, food.
Look, the convenience is undeniable. No one's arguing that. But this is where it gets complicated. This is where the simple picture starts to get a lot messier.
And that complication, it has a name. People call it the debt snowball. It's that effect where all these small, totally manageable payments start rolling together into something much, much larger.
This is where we get to something called loan stacking. See, one small loan for a pair of shoes, that's easy to handle. But then you add another one for concert tickets, and maybe another one for groceries, and each one is from a different app with a totally different payment schedule.
And suddenly, your financial reality isn't just one simple payment plan anymore. It's this whole collection of small, scattered payments. You've got $18.50 coming out for Klarna, $22 for Afterpay. Individually, they're nothing. They're tiny. But when you put them all together, what's the actual total you owe this month? It gets incredibly hard to track.
And that difficulty in tracking, it has a very real consequence. In fact, about 35% of people who use these services say they've been late on a payment at least once. It's just so easy to lose track when your debt is spread all over the place with different apps and different due dates.
So what happens when you do miss a payment? Well, this is where that whole no-interest idea starts to show its cracks. This is where it starts to leave a real financial footprint.
Okay, let's go back to that $120 item. The plan was simple, right? 4 payments of $30. But miss just one of those payments and a late fee gets tacked on. All of a sudden, that no-interest deal you've got actually costs you more than if you had just paid the full price up front.
And then there's the whole credit score question. See, the big financial agencies, they've started including these BNPL loans on credit reports. Now, your payment history makes up about 35% of your credit score, so a missed payment here, it can definitely hurt you. But here's the really tricky part. Making all your payments on time often doesn't help you. It usually doesn't build your credit history the way a traditional loan or a credit card would.
So look, understanding all this isn't about saying never use these services. Not at all. It's about recognizing the psychology that's at play so that you can stay in control.
There are really 3 key things to keep in your back pocket. First is what I'd call the perception gap. It might not feel like you're taking out a loan when you click that button, but you are. Second, there's that stacking effect we talked about, how all those little payments add up incredibly fast. And third, you just have to respect the allure of ease. The easier a company makes it for you to borrow money, the harder it can be for you to track it.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, first, that convenience is designed to get us to spend more. Second, all those small, scattered payments can really hide the true amount of debt you're carrying. And third, what starts with an easy click can sometimes lead to a pretty difficult situation.
It all kind of leaves you with one final thought, doesn't it? The easiest way to pay for something isn't always the simplest to manage.